I use this so I can sketch out how I'm working in space. So I will actually try to first summarize what Ykon has been doing in the last, let's say, 10 to 8 years in just a couple of sentences, which is like if you take something like the situation with social conventions, like convention like this. I'm talking to you, you're sitting there listening to me, and you essentially turn it into a design and creative paradigm. And that is, we could create this situation in any manner we want. Then you end up with a hell of a problem, because then, like, essentially everything is creative. On the other hand, you end up with the reality of, like, when you start to create, realize that everything is potential to be created, there is a limit to your creation as well. And also the problem that actually our capabilities of creation might actually be somewhat limited. But I think this topic of what happens when you start creating interactions, when you start with the paradigm that whatever form you're in, as a basis for this presentation. And now I will check the time, because it's one of the conventions I have to keep obeying, because the time crowd is very strong. So, so that I will keep to my 15 minutes. So to deal with this topic, to have it as a platform, let's start with the basics. Now, you're here sitting, and I'm here talking. And before we even go to this situation of me talking and you sitting, we should go even deeper and start with just the observation and senses. So, to take an example, now you're watching something probably more or less towards here, but let's try to change that situation a bit. So if I would say, for example, to you, like after watching for a while, I'll give you a kind of a filter, which is like, if you think of the concept of, let's start with a simple one, like colors. And you put that concept like you would put a filter in front of your eyes. That is like you could now concentrate on this environment in a sense, like how do you see it as colors? And this is a part you should really do, because otherwise this doesn't work. So if you now entertain this idea that you're watching this environment as colors, does it change what you get out of the environment? This is not a rhetorical question, it's a real question actually. Any changes?
Yes.
Yes? That's a good start. But of course, like, we now made a conceptual filter, and concepts are essentially, or practically infinite, because we could change it to shapes, or let's change it to marks of time. Like meaning, like how you can find something that is marked by time here. And if you once again entertain that filter, like at least for me, it becomes this walls actually, and then I start thinking about the history, like when did they make these tiles? That's actually one mark of time in itself, like a historical mark, but then I can say the wear and tear. That's another kind of history or mark of time. And so on and so forth. But of course we can change this yet again, and we can make it, for example, to the filter of stages. Meaning, if we approach this as that there are potential stages, like stages of theatrical plays or performances present, and one has to imagine what the play would be about. So then, for example, you could make me into a play, which probably would change maybe a little bit of how you see me. Like what could have been the scene before this? Maybe it's one of these new documentary plays or one of these PowerPoint slide plays that are